Okay, so if I can grab your attention real quick. For those, some of you may have already finished this curtain wall, but I know a couple people were having some struggles. So let's go through and look at how to create a couple of these different components. So I'm going to create or recreate this curtain wall here, this curtain wall here, or storefront, whatever you want to call it. And then I'm also going to create this accordion wall right here. All right, so I'm just going to, for now, I'm just going to delete these items. All right.
Is the entrance consisted of wall and
yeah, so you could build the walls for the entrance first, and then this is just a piece of storefront, just like we've done in all of our critical thinking exercises and whatnot. The process is still exactly the same.
But in different thickness, or different wide.
Different thickness, yeah. It might be a little bit. You might have to adjust the properties of the mullions or something like that. Yeah, that is a possibility. Okay, so I'm gonna go to, if I can everyone just have everyone quiet just for a second. I'm gonna go to my ground floor plan. All right, and you can see here that we already have the CAD file. Okay, the CAD file shows approximately what it should look like. Okay, we have two different pieces. We have storefront here, or three actually. Storefront here, and then we have this accordion wall right over here. Hopefully I got sound on this. Yeah, I do. It's been switching off the microphone by itself for some reason. Okay, so then we have this accordion wall over here. Now, the tricky part about the accordion wall is there's not an accordion wall in Revit. So you have to think outside the box a little bit in terms of how you would create it. Okay, anybody have any ideas or maybe already took a pass at how they created that accordion wall? The way that I think of it is, you know, what's the closest thing that we have that maybe closely resembles that wall? Okay, it's kind of a tricky one. It actually took me a couple semesters to be like, bing, light bulb went off and I was like, I got a good idea on how to create that.
Sliding glass door or something?
No.
Where you slide things?
Nope, not a sliding glass door. Anybody else have an idea? So what I actually did was I actually used a storefront without any mullions on it. Okay, so what I did was this. So I started by going over to the wall. All right, I clicked on wall architectural, and then I actually created a new assembly for this right here, and I just called it curtain wall green panel. Okay, and then what I did was I established some vertical and horizontal parameters. So you could see here that our verticals are separated by about 1'5". Maybe we'll just say 1.5 feet to keep it simple. Okay, but if you look at this, there's actually no mullion. There's no mullion in place. You can see where the mullion would be, but all it's actually showing is a grid line. Okay, so what I did, I'll create this from scratch. I went to architectural, edit type, duplicate, and I'll just call this 2. Okay, and then I started to establish a couple of different parameters. So maximum spacing, I put 2 feet. You could also put exact spacing or fixed distance, and you could say 1'6". All right, 1'6", and then the horizontal spacing, I think I put none. Okay, because I want the accordion to actually go all the way up to the top. Okay, because it's not. I'm thinking outside the box a little bit in that it's not really acting as a storefront. I'm using the storefront because it has the visual appearance of what my final product is going to look like. But really, it's not gonna be a storefront. So I actually added no horizontal grid line whatsoever because I basically just want the ability for the wall to have multiple breakpoints so that it could take on a curve, but I can see those breakpoints, and that's what it's doing. So it's a storefront, but I'm changing the glass from the glass to a green panel, and all you see is just the joint in the glass every 2 feet where the mullion would actually go. Okay, so under vertical mullions and horizontal mullions, I put none. All right, and then right now it says curtain panel is also none. I am going to change that to glass for now. Actually, let's just leave it at none for now. Let's just see what we get. Okay, so I have my curtain wall that I've created, all right, and I've established some of my parameters. So you don't necessarily need to start exactly where this, I'm gonna start from the middle of the wall here. All right, and I'm gonna go ahead and draw to about, we'll say there. All right, notice that we've gotten a similar look to what you see in the CAD file. All right, and then the next point, I'm gonna do the same thing, wall architectural, except this time I'm going to pick the arc. All right, I'm gonna start here where I ended earlier. I'm gonna finish at the midpoint of the wall here as well. All right, and I'm going to bend it. Notice here that it's snapping to this point. It's actually mirroring, it's matching the curve of the adjacent wall. All right, and notice that it replicated the exact same thing. All right, so we're almost there. So I'm going to click on both these walls. Let's make sure that both of my constraints are correct. Let's look at it in 3D. All right, so right now we have this. I'm going to select both of these, 1 and 2. And let's see what our constraints are. We got ground up to first level, top offset. This can just be 0. Okay, and we're almost there. So right now the only difference is that right now all of our panels are just glass. Okay, I want it to match what it is that I have here. So right now on this wall, basic wall, exterior 8-inch green, I created a material, I just called it green. Okay, and if we actually look at the material, you can see here that basically it's just a generic material that I assigned this kind of turquoisey color to match what's actually there. Okay, or it's probably some slight variation of that. So I created that material and I called it green. Okay, so I used that for the wall, and I'm also going to use the same thing for this panel right here. So I'm going to select this panel, and I'm going to go to Edit Type, and I'm going to create a new panel. Okay, so right now we don't have a curtain panel defined. Okay, so right now if I go and I hover my mouse over that panel, I'm going to tab it so that I can grab one of these single panes. And right now that's System Panel Glazed. All right, you can see that last time I actually created one called Green Glazed. So what I did was I went to Edit Type, I duplicated this, so I'll call this the opposite way around, Glazed Green. All right, I hit OK. Because really all that panel is, it's just basically an extrusion with a glass material assigned to it. That's all it is. Okay, so it's 1 inch thick, and right now the material is glass. I changed that material to green. Okay, and I hit OK.
Without any link to a specific material?
It is. The link is to that material green. So it's the same thing as what we created for this wall.
It doesn't have any link if you hit appearance.
Uh-huh.
It doesn't have any link.
What do you mean?
Image.
Yeah. For
Oh no, because it's just a color. There's no image map associated with it. It's just green. That's all it is. Now, if you wanted to, you probably could. If you really wanted it to have some kind of a texture, I'm not sure what it's made out of in real life, but I'm just saying it's green. Okay, but if you really wanted to, you could do it the way that you're talking about. But you'd have to figure out what that material is and make a color for it and all that stuff. But I'm just calling it green. All right, I'm just doing it simple. All right, and I hit OK. So now the material for that glazed panel is just green. All right, I'm going to hit OK. So notice that that panel is now matching our wall over here. So if I click on this curtain wall right here, you should be able to go to Edit Type, and then under, let's see, how did I do this last time? I thought I went, let's see, curtain panel, basic wall, right here. I went down to System Panel, and then I found the glazed green that I just created. Okay, I'm gonna hit OK, and it changes all of the panels to green. Okay, and you can see here, I mean, it's not exactly what it is in real life, but it mimics, you know, what it is I'm trying to achieve. Okay, because this is just something that's not really created anymore. Okay, or it's not. I'm sure if you looked really hard, you might be able to find something already made. But I'd say this is probably the closest representation of that of what I'm trying to achieve that you can get. Okay, because in elevation, it actually looks like what I want it to look like, which is the most important part. If you do a perspective, it looks like what you want it to look like. Okay, in plan, it's pretty close. Okay, does that make sense? So that's kind of my, is there another solution? Yeah, you might be able to think of another way that you could do that. I'm sure there's probably a couple arguments that you could probably come up with, but that was what I came up with as my solution. Okay, if you have another way, by all means, that you could try that as well. All right, and then I would just take this and I'm just going to attach it to the floor above. Attach. Here we go, and we're all set there. Okay, so that's that wall right there. Yes.
You've been to this place, right?
I actually have not been to this place. I've been to a couple of his other buildings, but not this place.
Nails are actually removable or anything.
I think they actually, I've seen pictures of them basically sliding into a cavity into the wall on the other side. So it's on some kind of a track where you could like pull it open into, I think, into a couple segments. So, but I'm sure we could actually research it a little bit more and maybe find out a bit more about that wall. Okay, so creating these two curtain walls right here is very much exactly the same as the way that we just created this wall, but we actually want mullions and we want it to actually be glass. Okay, so if we look at an example of this, let's go to let's find a picture. Villa Savoye. Let's go to images and let's see. Let's see. Whoops. All right, well, that's actually close enough, even though I spelled it wrong. All right, I think the actual mullions are really, really thin. Okay, I'm gonna guess they're maybe like 1.5 inches thick versus 2 or 2.5 inches. Okay, and then it looks like the spacing is maybe like, I don't know, a foot or something like that. I'll let you be the judge of that, but I would say it's about a foot, and then we have a horizontal spacing at about 3 feet or 4 feet or something like that, and the glazing goes right up to the next level. All right, so so you can look at the different pictures and you can get really detailed. The bottom mullion's probably a little thicker, and you can get as detailed as you'd like, but at the least you should have the spacing correct and probably have this mid horizontal as well. All right, so I'm going to go back to my ground floor plan. All right, and I am going to go to wall architectural. Now I've already created an assembly for this. Let's see, at least I think I did. Ground level storefront. All right, if I go to edit type, I've said maximum spacing is 1'6". I can say it's probably actually more like a foot. And horizontal spacing, I just said 8 feet. What I ended up doing was I just put an offset of 4 feet at the very beginning of it, and it actually pushed it up above, so it ended up working out. Okay, so that's okay. The other way you could do it is you could say horizontal, you could say none, and then I'll manually place the horizontal one as well. So for vertical mullions, we're gonna say, I'm going to use this 1.5 by 1.5. I'll use it for all of them. All right, because I'm thinking there's a smaller mullion than the rest. All right, interior type, we'll just say they're all the same for simplicity's sakes, even though you could probably argue that some of these are a little bit different. All right, so that looks good. And I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. All right, and then from here, I can go ahead and copy this. All right, so I'm going to start here using my arc. Go down to the bottom, click again, and then I can define what that arc is. All right, I'm gonna kind of get it right about there. Click again, and there we have that storefront. All right, I'm gonna do the same thing over here. All right, I don't know if you guys know this. Do you guys know that just by hitting enter, it will repeat the last command that you just used? So you don't have to go up to architecture again, click on wall, just hit enter and it will repeat the last command that you just used. All right, so I'll do the same thing. Oh, just change it back to arc.
And you select the center of the wall.
Yeah, I'm kind of just eyeballing it in terms of where I see it on the CAD file. I would prefer it to not go through the wall like that, but that should do it. Okay, and then we have something like that. It's probably a good argument that maybe the mullion's probably like 1.5 by like 4 maybe. I'd say what I have here is probably a little bit too thick. All right, but that's okay. Not a big deal. All right, so now we have what we could see here. All right, so I'm going to take both of these walls. Right now the constraints are way too tall. All right, I'm going to attach them both to my floor assembly above. You guys don't have the floor assembly up there yet, but you guys can just say top constraint first level, and that'll be okay for now. All right, so I'll change this back to 0. All right, and we have that glazing. That looks pretty good. Now I just need to add my horizontal. All right, so I'm going to go over to architecture. I'm going to go to curtain grid, and I'm going to do all segments. All right, and notice that if I hover my mouse over on the left edge, that it gives us a horizontal. You guys can barely see it, but it's showing that curtain wall line all the way across, and it gives you the dimension of what that is. It's saying 3'4" right now. So I'm going to guess that's maybe 3.5 or something like that. All right, I'm going to click, and there we have that horizontal. Okay, I can do the same thing over here, curtain grid, right there. Okay, any questions about that? So that will be those two panels. All right, and when you guys go over to creating the other windows, it's very much the same way, except you're going to establish your horizontal spacing, you'll establish your vertical spacing, and your mullion size. Okay, and make sure you pay attention to your constraints in terms of where they're located. All right, so go ahead and keep going. Your goal today should be that you should have all of your exterior and interior walls for both levels. All right, along with the different glazing and storefronts. Don't worry about the ramp. Don't worry about the stairs inside. Don't worry about some of these interior features as well. All right, just focus on getting all the walls and all the windows lined up with where they should be. Okay, so we have some time. We have about 2 hours to work on this. Okay, so I'll be working on grading your midterms, but I'll also come around and help whenever you guys need help. Okay, so keep going. I'll upload this as well.